Palantir is set to report earnings next week. And as you know, the company has been basically trading in a range since their last report in February. Today, I thought we could look at what we know and any possible surprises that could move it out of the range that it's been stuck in, higher or lower. But first, I want to welcome you to Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, where Palantir isn't new on this channel. We were focusing on Palantir more than a month before they went public and have talked about them a lot. I would definitely say more than any other company on the channel because I know a lot of you in the community are interested in them. Now, for anyone new here, my name is Kevin. And for those of you who've been watching me before, you know that I'm not here to hype the company. I just try to share the information that's out there and have my own thoughts for you to consider, and then you only take it all in and do what's best for you. Now, it's been a weird time in the markets where investor interest has been shifting a lot, so if you want more videos on Palantir, please remember to like the video and maybe even add a comment. That helps me know that you're still interested in me making more videos on Palantir. Now, if you're new to the channel and want me to earn that like, I get it. Feel free to watch first. No premature pushing of the like button. But then if you end up enjoying the video, just remember to like it then so that I know you also want more. Plus, it just really helps me gain more traction on YouTube, which is important for every channel. Oh, and then you should subscribe too. It's totally free, and it'll make sure you don't miss any videos as soon as they come out. Alright, let's get into this. So Palantir stock. As a quick refresher, it came out flat for the first month of trading, right around that $10, and then as the quiet period ended, it got exciting, as it basically quadrupled from November through January. Then earnings were reported and the lockup expirations happened in the middle of February, and ever since it's been in this low to mid $20 range, about half of its all-time high. And what we want to try to figure out today is, will anything come out of this earnings report that will move the stock either way? So let's first talk about what's happened since that last earnings report in February. Well, the biggest thing has been the consistent trickling of news that insiders are selling. And while it doesn't look great, as I've said many times, it's not a surprise. It's almost a 20-year-old company that finally goes public, and now the founders and some long-term employees and investors are looking to capitalize by cashing out for either their early cash investments into the company or the years of time that they put into growing the company. Add that to the stock-based compensation aspect that's been a big part of Palantir, and along with the age of the company, there's a lot of shares of Palantir stock out there, and as it sells, it's putting negative pressure on the stock. And another piece of recent news that I know caught a lot of people's attention was an article from Reuters stating that Palantir's CEO, Alex Karp, received $1.1 billion of compensation in 2020. A huge amount from a company that is still yet to show a profit, and from a perception standpoint, is probably not something that sits well with a lot of investors. Particularly from a company that's corporate governance was highly criticized prior to its direct listing, leading to multiple amended filings to the SEC. So that's some of the things that's been going against Palantir stock. Let's now talk about some of the new deals or news that they've announced since the last earnings call. So this is all directly from Palantir and not rumors and innuendo. And as we go through it, I'll let you know if I think it's something that either moves the needle or it's just PR fluff. Alright, starting off first, we have on February 18th, which is again right when the earnings were being reported, Palantir and Akin Gump collaborates on a legal digital service platform. So while this article talks a little bit about what they're actually doing with the platform, when I look at Akin Gump and see what they're all about, it's a global law firm with more than 900 lawyers and advisors who pride themselves on dedication to their clients and their communities. Again, I don't think this is going to be a huge revenue maker. Again, so for me, I would just call this more of, it sounds good, but probably not going to move the stock a lot. All right, moving on, this is from Palantir's blog that they're launching an ERP suite to deliver cost savings for AWS customers. And when you hear AWS, you know that's Amazon and their cloud. So that sounds really good. And so it just talks a little bit about here, Palantir developed the ERP suite, a turnkey solution optimized to run on Amazon Web Services that enables rapid integration and analysis of data within the ERP or enterprise resource planning landscape. And so again, they're just making this available to all AWS customers, which definitely is going to get Palantir a little bit more out there. But there's no details of what that is going to do from a revenue point from Palantir. So while I think it's a very good positive thing, I don't know if this is something that's going to specifically move the needle big time. So it's not one I really can say one way or the other. But again, you would like to see that there is some type of expectations of the revenue or growth in the company that could happen because of it. All right, so next we have from the 23rd of February that Palantir and 3M expand the relationship. So they've worked together before, obviously, just based on how it's said, and they're looking to expand on it, what they call a multi-million-dollar expansion. So it sounds good, but again, lacking of details of how big of a project it really is. And again, they've already worked with them, so I don't know if this is a huge move, but again, positive. So then Palantir announced their DoubleClick demo event for April 14th, which again, this sounded like it was going to be a sales thing, but I think a lot of this is really for the investors as well. And so at this point, to me, it's still more of a PR thing. There's really nothing tangible here. They did release some other details about it, which again, I'm not going to go into. These are all on the site, so you can check them out yourself. And then on April 5th, which I did make a video on this, where we talked about Palantir being selected by the National Nuclear Security Administration. And this is a government contract, and it was for $89.9 million over 5 years. So this was a new one. And while I think this was an important deal, I didn't think it was a huge one when it came to really moving the stock price. And again, we didn't really see that it did for any period of time. And then there was another one that said Palantir and Ringer extend their digital transformation partnerships. So again, this is an extension, so we're not really seeing a new contract. And again, that's what I'm sort of looking for. What are you doing that's bringing in new money? Okay, so that's that. So in my opinion, what I'm seeing are two things. A lot of the news is mostly PR things to hype investors, news that sounds good, but not so much to move the bottom line. And really, that's pretty much what's happened these last couple of months on the stock. Now, the second is that there is only one release talking about a new government contract. That's notable to me because there has been some speculation mentioned out there that revenue growth from government could slow down through 2021, which obviously puts more of a light on the commercial side growth, something that I've been consistent about forever. I want to see more growth on that side with Foundry for me to justify higher valuations of Palantir stock. I always say that Palantir is a solid company on just their government business alone, but for those of you that want to see the stock trading at higher prices, you need to have high percentage growth numbers, and that will always be limited on the government side. So let's talk about some of those sales or revenue numbers that we're expecting. Palantir, on their last earnings call, reported earning $1.1 billion in revenue in 2020, which was up 47% year over year. And just thinking about it for the first time, it's interesting that basically all the revenue gained in 2020 equaled Alex Karp's compensation for the year, if Reuters' report is accurate. Wow, that's just crazy and really mind-blowing. Anyways, Palantir also shared expectations that the company would earn year-over-year revenue growth of greater than 30% for 2021. Now that's obviously a slower rate of growth from 2020 and something that could provide some data behind the concerns that the government revenue could be slowing down. However, if revenue does grow right at 30%, this would indicate expected full-year revenue of $1.54 billion, and a $400 million gain year over year isn't too shabby. Especially for a company that, again, is close to now being around for 20 years, and a company that age, 30% is pretty darn good. Now, focusing on the quarter and what this could mean towards moving the stock, the company said they were expecting year-over-year revenue growth of 45% for quarter one. Now, since quarter one of last year came in at $229.3 million, basic math tells us that Palantir is expecting revenue to come in at about $332.5 million. And that's basically what the analysts are expecting, so we'll want to keep an eye on what they actually report. Now, keeping with revenue and putting it towards the valuation perspective, let's look at their price to sales ratio. On trailing 12 months, it's approximately at a multiple of 38 as I prepare this. And then for estimated 2021 revenue, it's about 27. Now, it's always hard to compare companies because of some fundamental differences, but what has always made Palantir especially hard is figuring out what industry it belongs in or who its actual competitors and peers are. Now, if you look at technology in general for the first quarter of 2021, a price to sales on trailing 12-month revenue is around 7. But obviously that's pretty broad. Now, if you put them in the software and programming sector, then the multiple's around 9 to 10. And even then, would you put Palantir in there? I mean, particularly with their history of government work that, while using software analysis, there's been a long-standing consulting aspect that I'm not sure has completely gone away, even though that's the direction where the company is moving and it needs to move to reduce expenses. Anyways, my point is that it's been hard to pigeonhole the company to a specific industry, and really that's been one of the more intriguing aspects of Palantir. Alright, so considering the news, the valuation, the insider activity, what do I think is going to happen with PLTR stock after it reports its earnings before the market opens on Tuesday, May 11th, which, by the way, you can go to Palantir's website's investor section to register to participate in. So here's what I'm thinking, and these are just my own thoughts on what could happen, not providing any financial advice here. With growth in technology stocks continuing to be under pressure in general, Palantir is going to be talking a lot about contribution margin, which might sound good, but it does exclude the stock-based compensation that negatively impacts the stock because of the levels that they use it at. But for me, the important thing will come down to the actual revenue. If it comes in close to that $332.5 million number I mentioned, or less, the stock will probably drop some, because in this general market environment, even if you meet it, it's just not going to be good enough. Investors will be looking not just for a beat, but a significant beat, and again, they may not get it. Especially now that some of the euphoria in Palantir has withered some over the past couple of months. Now, if sales come in at $360, which I don't know if that will happen, but if it does, that might be enough for a small rally in the stock. But I guess my overall feel is I don't expect any major surprises for Palantir either way. And because of that, I don't see a huge amount of movement in their stock price. I still think long term they'll be fine, but if they miss revenue estimates, that could put pressure on that $20 psychological support level that could cause a panic for some of the retail investors that will be questioning the amount of hype that they've been fed, and that could drop it back to an $18 or even $17 range, which would start making valuations probably more in line where it should be. Now, if the company meets or slightly beats revenue estimates, I see the stock staying basically in that current range, and then other details being more closely scrutinized to determine if Palantir had a good quarter or not. Things like adjusted operating margin, which is expected to be lower in quarter one than it was in quarter four 2020, and that's guidance from Palantir itself. And then if there is a solid beat on revenue, not extraordinary, but solid, like the $360 number I just proposed, that could propel the stock back in the upper $20 range, even if it would still be pricey from a valuation perspective, but being somewhat justified because companies that grow fast are rewarded with higher valuations as compared to their peer group. Now, if you didn't buy Palantir stock in the first few weeks it was public, you're probably frustrated, but remember, it's trading more than double than when it first went public, which is really good. But it probably got there too fast because of a lot of factors, one of them being due to a historic run in the market. Now, as I said in other update videos I've done on Palantir, I know it doesn't feel good at the time after a year like last year where everything was up, but sometimes it just takes time to catch up to the valuation, and add that to a market that's becoming a lot more tentative. It's probably a time for patience for believers in the company. So for everyone that has commented that they are long on the company, nothing has significantly changed, barring any major surprises, which again I don't really see coming. Now, there could be some minor ones, but probably nothing that's going to get the stock to where you want it as fast as you would like. Anyway, so that's my thinking on Palantir going into earnings next week. What do you think? Am I missing something? Let me know in the comments. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, again, please press that like button and share with your friends and on any of your social media sites and forums you're on. Anything you can do to help me grow the channel will allow me to do more here. And if you're new to the channel or just an occasional visitor, we'd love to have you join the community. Again, it's totally free, and you just got to press that little red subscribe button. We'd love to have you on board. Anyways, until next time, thank you for watching, have a good week of trading, and have a great day.